This is J. Krishnamurti's fourth public discussion in Ojai, California, 1978.
What shall we talk about this morning? You're very quick. Oh my goodness.
May I ask you, when there is looking during the day, what prevents the attention from being total enough to end the me completely? Thank you.
What is?
When there is looking during the day, what prevents that looking from being total enough to end the me completely? Thank you.
When one observes, why is it not possible to observe totally during the day?
And end the me completely.
And bring to an end the me, the I, completely.
You have often referred to yourself as the speaker. Last Tuesday, it seems you went even farther by referring to Krishnamurti as he. Could we examine how language affects the development of ego?
Could you examine the language which cultivates the ego? You refer to yourself as a speaker, and other occasions I. Is that cultivation of the I?
Sir, will you please speak about meditation and what is the relation of intuition to insight?
What is the relation between?
Intuition.
Intuition and insight.
And meditation.
Could you talk about meditation and the relationship between insight and intuition?
Again, I'd like to ask what I asked on Tuesday, if we could go into the question of living and acting with integrity in this human desert we have created.
What is that, sir?
The question of living and acting with integrity in the human desert we have created.
I couldn't catch that word.
Acting with integrity.
With?
Yes.
What?
Integrity.
With integrity. What is it possible to act with integrity? And what do you mean by that word, integrity?
Right. And the problems and pressures involved in doing so in the human society we have now, which we have created.
How can one act with integrity in a society in which we have to live? Right, sir.
When I find myself in negative emotions like fear and resentment, how best can I get out of them?
How am I to be free myself from negative emotions? I don't know what negative emotions are. Let's go into it.
You have often...
Little bit louder, sir.
You have often spoken of the metaphor of jumping away from a car that is coming at you. I've had difficulty with it because I feel that instead I am in a veritable fortress of conditioning, which would place me into the car in the metaphor, which is racing towards a precipice, and how do I get out of the car? Point being, if you're in the fortress of conditioning looking out, how do you see clearly enough to get out of the fortress or leap from the car?
You've used the metaphor jumping away from a car which is coming towards you and the danger of a precipice. Is it possible, I'm not quite clear, sir, of your question, I'm trying to understand it. Is it possible to be equally perceptive of the danger of conditioning.
And to see it clearly enough when you're entrapped.
Yeah, that's clearly enough to see the danger and jump away from it.
Could we go into that silence that you talk about that is indescribable when you write? Because I can see my noise.
I didn't quite catch that, sir.
Can you go into the silence that you write about?
Could we go into the question of what it means to be silent?
Yeah.
Quite.
Could we examine the difference between intensity and desire?
Could we examine intensity and desire? What is the relationship between?
Or the difference between them?
Yes, between them. Now, just a minute. Yes, please, you can ask all the questions you want, but I don't know where it's going to lead us.
When does the need,
What?
when does the need to secure psychological security for oneself in any form come totally and completely to an end?
Is there, if I understand it rightly, is there complete and total security psychologically and physically? Is that the question?
The need to secure that security.
The need to have that security.
So that end.
Yeah.
Can that end?
Can that end? The need to have complete and total security, both physiologically as well as psychologically, can that end?
I wanted to continue something we were talking about last time. You talked about, is it possible to look at one's habits without direction, without wishing to change, and not compare oneself to another? And yet there's this desire to transform oneself, which I find becomes an entrenched idea in the mind, a goal. And then the question of technique comes up, or how. So despite all the efforts, again, I find myself looking for the how, the technique, and again, looking
Yes, I
with
understand.
direction. So I thought we'd go into that.
You've heard the question, need I repeat it? All right. Now, may I, just a minute, if I'm not asking you to stop asking questions, I don't know which of these questions we're going to ask. We have so many of them.
Meditation, insight.
Beg your pardon?
Meditation, insight, and intuition.
What were you going to say, sir?
I was going to ask, if right action is not according to a blueprint, how can one ascertain if what one is doing is correct?
Yeah. What is right action? Could we please, yes?
I have one question to ask, mine embrace all of them. What is implied in being a total human being?
Total?
Human being.
What does it mean, or what is the significance of the word being totally a human being? Now, which of these questions would we take? Beg your pardon?
What is right action?
What is right action? Could we take that? Would that?
Mr. Krishnamurti, you speak sometimes of choiceless awareness, and in other words, one should be totally aware, and even if one is born, what if one is born into slavery? And for example, Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and these people and Cesar Chavez, if they hadn't stood up and fought, in a sense, their people would still be in a much more unrespected place. Or
I understand. So, what is the question?
The question is, how can one be aware and be without conflict and...
Yes. Could we talk over together the question which may cover all the other questions? What is correct action? Given all the circumstances, what societies, what religions are, what other people have said, and so on, what is correct action in our life, living in modern society? Could we discuss that? Would that? Yes. Is that what you're going to say?
And please cover why we do not take right action. Why are we so confused as to what it is?
Can we take that question, which might cover all other questions? What is correct action? Could we go into that? Do you want to discuss that? Yes, sir.
It's an honor to me here and talk to you. I want to say that I love you with all my stuff. It's clear what I'm saying?
I can't hear you, sir.
Oh, do I say it again?
No.
That's right.
Could we go into this question of what is correct action? Would that be worthwhile discussing? And is that what you are really interested in? Could we go into that? Right. When we use the word correct, don't we mean accurate? An action which is not only correct for the day or for in certain circumstances, correct right throughout one's life. Would you agree to the definition or the expression of that word, correct, right, accurate action throughout life, not under varying circumstances? Could we go into that? Is that what you want to discuss? Please tell me. I don't know. Good. Does accurate action depend upon opinion? Your opinion and another's opinion, or the opinion of a scientist or a person who is very well read, full of knowledge. When we talk about correct action, is it a specialized action? And please, this is a discussion, a dialogue. Is it an action not based on a conclusion? You may have your own particular conclusions, and another may have another, his own, and therefore each conclusion and acting according to that conclusion may be incorrect action. Or your experience tells you what is correct action. Another's experience, perhaps different, tells him that is the correct action. So we are asking, Does correct action depend on knowledge, opinion, choice, experience?
You said, is it a specialized action?
What's that?
You said, is it a specialized action? Is it a specialized action?
Is action dependent on a specialized, a specialized attitude, specialized knowledge, as a scientist, as a businessman, as a psychologist, as a religious man, and so on? Does it depend on specialized knowledge? I'm asking, I'm not saying yes or no. Does it depend on opinion?
Sir, I want to say that I think we're trying to get to action which does not conflict with others' actions. Or I may have my own feeling of what is right, but then someone else will have a feeling of what he thinks is right.
That's what we are saying, sir.
So therefore, there will be conflict if we both hang on to what we both think.
That's what we said.
Then there will be conflict. And
so we are asking, does correct action depend on conclusions, yours or others, opinions, judgments, evaluations, and conclusions? Does it depend on those?
It does from a physical standpoint, like the act of driving a car, for example.
Huh?
It does from a physical standpoint.
From a
Physical.
According to one's genes, according to one's character being the cultivation of certain types of resistance to a particular society and so on. Now please just listen, let's find out. I am not saying this is correct or this is correct. I want to find out, if I may, as a human being, I want to find out what is correct action throughout life. Throughout life, not just for 1 or 2 years and then slip back and so on. I want to find out for all my life, so that correct action implies no conflict, no contradiction, no imposition. There is no correct action under pressure. So one must find out what is correct action. How will you find out? So we are asking, does it depend on time, culture, environment, what other people have said, including the greatest religious teachers, if there are any, and so on, so on, so on. So what is... Now wait a minute, let me put the question differently. How do you approach this question? Huh?
If we don't know what correct action is.
We'll know until the time comes.
Wait, my lady. There is the question. Please just listen. I'm not asking you for oppressing you or pressurizing you to listen. You asked a question. You said, what is correct action in life? How do you approach this question? You understand? How you approach it will dictate the discovery of right action. So how do you, as a human being, approach this question?
Openly.
Huh?
Openly.
Openly? What do you mean by that word, openly?
Realize we don't know anything at all about correct.
What?
Realize we don't know anything at all about correct.
So we say, I don't know what is the correct action. So my approach is, I don't know. Is that it?
We may know what incorrect action is.
We may know what is incorrect action. Do you? No, please, you haven't answered my question. Forgive me, sir. How do you approach such an enormous, complex question of what is correct action? That lady said openly.
Maybe we could explore what is action.
We are coming to that, madam. How do you approach either action or correct action? What is your venue to it?
With intelligence.
Huh?
With intelligence.
With intelligence. What do you mean by that word? I'm not quibbling over words, but we must be clear when we use certain words like intelligence, open, and so on, that we understand exactly, you and the speaker and others, the meaning of that word, intelligence. Huh?
Look for the obvious.
Look for the obvious. What is the obvious?
How about the need to set up goals?
What?
The goals for which these actions must pursue.
Goals. It says goals.
Goal.
Goals.
Goal. Are you approaching it with a motive, with an object in view, with a purpose, with a goal?
Goals are to be set and be broken.
If we have a goal, it will certainly
Dictate, of course. So, what is your approach to any? Look, sir, this is a very, very complex question. Because if the mind is in contradiction, and I am not aware that I am in contradiction, and try to answer this question, it will be too silly. So I have to find out for myself how, in what manner I come to the question, in what manner I receive the question, in what way I look at that question. Because the way I look at it, the way I approach it, the way, if there is a motive, that will dictate, direct my inquiry into it. So how does each one approach this question? Are we aware how we approach it? Are you and I approaching it through some conclusion? Are we approaching it through a particular opinion, a fixed idea? If we are, we shall never find out, obviously. So I'm asking, shouldn't there be a freedom from all this to find out? From prejudice, from conclusion, from opinion, from a belief, and so on, so on.
If you approach it with the idea that every thought you have regarding the subject comes from the past, then
Yes, sir, that's what I'm saying. How do you approach it?
I would observe the thoughts that arise
Do it, sir. Thought that arises. Will that thought help to bring about correct action?
The observation of the thought is limited.
So, when one realizes thought is limited and exercises thought to find out what is correct action, that action will also be limited. So, do we realize that thought is limited, and therefore, if thought approaches this question, then obviously it's limited. What's that?
Must we not approach it with silence? Must we
not can we approach it with silence? Now, what do you mean by that word silence? A quiet
heart. Quiet heart.
Quiet heart.
Empty mind.
Huh?
Empty mind.
A mind that's not occupied. Look, please, this is just theories. Are you actually doing it, or just throwing out words, hoping that will be correct? You see, if I... Come on, madam, I mean what? Can't hear. I'm afraid I can't hear.
To develop intuition.
What?
Develop your intuition.
Oh, develop your intuition. What do you mean by that word intuition? You see, would you kindly find out, as this is a very complex question, shouldn't you come to it with freedom to find out? Not offer your opinions, your conclusions, your judgments, your ideas, but come to it with a freedom to find out. Can we do that?
So what if there is a judgment or a conclusion that I'm aware of, that I bring to it, to suppress it or put it aside certainly with...
Therefore you won't find out what's correct action, will you? No. Therefore, can't one put those aside?
I put them aside, but I see they creep up again.
No. This is an important question, isn't it? Yes. This demands your energy, doesn't it? Yes. To find out. This demands that you are aware of your limited thoughts and so on, so on. So you say, as this is most important to find out, as it is essential to find out, as it is of the greatest necessity, you naturally drop the others. Don't you? If you see this is the greatest importance, the others don't play any part. Your conclusions, your opinions, your judgments, your beliefs, and so on.
It's not necessary to really go in to find out what your opinions are and your ideas and your beliefs. It's not necessary.
Oh, if you want to, that is it not necessary, the lady asked. Can we go on in spite of that? All right. The lady asked, is it not necessary to go into the question of why we have opinions, why we always function according to some conclusion. Why do we have strong beliefs? All that, should we examine all that? Why do you have opinions? about politics, about God, about me, about X, Y, Z. Why do you have opinions?
Because we are compassionate.
Huh?
Because we are compassionate and we care.
There's somebody else is. Beg pardon?
We are compassionate and we care.
She says because we are compassionate, we care.
Sorry, the bell is stronger.
She said because we are compassionate.
Because we have no compassion, we have opinions. Is that it?
Because we have compassion, therefore we have opinions.
We have compassion, therefore we have opinions. What a statement to make. We have compassion and therefore we have opinions.
No, that's not what I said. We have compassion and therefore we care. Not that we have opinions, but we are being attentive to the need of the moment because we have compassion.
But how do you form an opinion? That's the question. Why do we have opinions?
Well, I'm against it.
I didn't catch that. I missed that joke.
She said she was against opinions.
Sir, this lady asked, why do we have opinions? That lady said, I am against opinions.
Opinions give me the illusion of security.
Kiski, what?
Isn't that a judgment on yourself?
I can't hear you.
Some people even sell their opinions.
What?
Some people even sell their opinions.
Some people?
Even sell their opinions.
Oh, sell their opinions. All the editorials.
Like a flea market or whatever.
Yes.
But the lady asked, isn't a judgment on opinions an opinion?
What?
Isn't a judgment an opinion?
Thank God those bells are strong. Would you kindly consider, I'm not saying you should, but would you kindly consider why your minds are so occupied that you can't look at even this question? You understand? Why you have so many ideas about it? Why you should have opinions, why you should not have it is necessary, compassion, etc., etc. Can't you just listen to the question first? One means by listening, giving attention to the question. You know what you think. You know what you feel. You have your own conclusions. Can't you put those aside for a minute, for a few seconds even, and listen to the question itself? What does the question imply? Is there a correct action at all? We want to find out what is correct action, but Our minds are so confused, so uncertain, so opinionated, we can't even listen to the basic question. Oh? I'm afraid I can't hear, madam. Would somebody please?
She is saying, she is questioning the word correct, that perhaps the word correct itself is a value judgment. I believe.
Look, madam, we don't know what that word correct means yet. We don't know what action means yet. We are first listen to the question. Not oppose the question, not agree with the question or deny the question, but first listen to some question that the man has asked. He said, I'd like to find out in my life, before I die, what is correct action all throughout my life. He's asking that.
So, if we can listen, could listen in freedom, there is no question.
What is the question, sir?
He said if we can listen in freedom, there is no question.
You are asking us, why are you asking?
No, I'm asking, just forgive me, sir. I'm just asking, if you don't mind, would you listen, please, to the question? That's all.
But can we listen?
Can we listen?
Apparently you can't. That's a simple fact.
What is listening?
Wait one, sir.
What is listening?
What is listening? When your wife or husband or your girl or boy says, I love you, do you listen? Or you take it for granted? In the same way, do you listen when a serious question is put about life, which involves what is action, and if there is accurate, true action which has no conflict, which doesn't bring regret, which doesn't bring fear, etc., etc. He's asking that question. Please listen. And you say, what do you mean by listening? I mean by listening with attention, with care, with affection, with sense of responsibility, which doesn't bring guilt. Just listen. And apparently, that's one of the most difficult things here that we are facing. That we don't listen. Now, what will persuade you to listen? No, just listen to the question.
I'd like to attempt to answer it.
With one?
Can I try to answer your question?
If you like.
Okay. I tried to talk last time about perception and the way you see things. And you talk about a car coming at you and you jumping. I'd like to put them together. If you stop and think about the car coming towards you, it's over. There is no decision to make. There is no action to make because it's hit you. If you don't stop and think because you see what is happening, you jump. So in order to get that action which is correct for the moment, for that situation, you have eliminated thought. So I would suggest that in order to get correct action in any situation, you have to eliminate thought. You have to perceive the situation exactly as it is, your own position in the correct perspective of it, not as the major part of it, but as a section of the whole. And then there is only one action that can be made.
Madam, I've listened to it. I've listened to your question, your answer. But you haven't, if I may, forgive me if I point out, you haven't found out if you are listening to what the speaker has to say. He's asking, do you listen to this question at all? Because it is such a, please understand, it's a very complex question. And if you don't listen to even to the question, how can you answer anything about it? That's why when somebody says to you, I love you, and he means it, he says it with his heart, with his mind, he feels totally that he loves you. Do you listen? Or do you say, yes, what do you mean by that? Or do you argue? Do you love me more than the previous girl or man? You just, it is something he wants to tell you, and you don't have even the courtesy to listen. I'm not bullying you, but I'm just finding out how impossible this is becoming. So, sir, what is correct action? If we say, I really don't know, then we can begin. You understand? I really don't know what's correct action in life, because that is such a tremendous question. First of all, what is action? What do we mean by action? The word action means doing, acting in the present, not in the future, but our action is according to some principle, according to some ideal, or according to some standardized memory. Right? I wonder if so we are never acting. The verb to act means to do. To do means the movement in the present. That the present is there a present. You understand? Or is the present contaminated by the past? Tremendous things are involved in this question. So I must find out if what I do is based on a remembrance, on some hope, on some desperation, guilt, and so on, which is all the past. So, can the mind observe action which is springing from this past? That's one problem. And the other is one acting according to some ideal, a principle, according to some goal, a purpose, which is in the future, the utopia? Then I am acting according to something that may be or might be in the future, which is not acting. That's us. So, I have to find out if there is an action that is totally in the present, uncontaminated by the past or the future. Is that possible? You understand my...
Are you saying that the answer to the question is another question, that is, what is now?
Well, I'm doing that now. The present is the now.
So the answer to the question is another question, saying what is now? That's another question. What is now?
And is there such thing as now? What does it mean? It means it must be totally independent of the past and the future, which is there a time which is not a movement? I'm going to it, there are scientists here, I must be very careful. Is there, first of all, time is movement. The movement from the past through the present to the future. If that movement is the movement of time, then the now is non-existent. Right? Please understand it is non-existent. It's only when time stops as a movement, then the present is. You won't understand. Right, sir? So, the now is without time. You see? So then I have to find, I see that, I apprehend it. I don't know quite if it is correct, if it is true. I just observe it. I don't say, yes, I've got it. I observe that all our actions, whatever they be, noble, ignoble, personal, communal, every type of action is based either, as it is now, on the past, memory, remembrance, or on some utopian ideal. Right? This is a fact. So, all that implies there is no acting. You are acting according to a principle, to a memory. And I call that non-action. I don't know if you understand this. If I say I love you because I remember the pleasures that you give me, or the comfort, or the encouragement, this or that, is that love? Is love based on a remembrance? So I have to say, then I have to inquire whether that remembrance, which is bringing about action and so on, can that remembrance, that the tape that has recorded, stop? All that's implied in this question. Then also, I have to find out what is correct action, what is correct. Is it according to you, or according to him, or according to some divinity or some idea? I don't know. So I have to say, look, what is correct action? First of all, there must be no contradiction in it. Right? There must be no, it mustn't come out of some fear. It mustn't come out of some pleasure. It mustn't come out of some future hope. So I must find out if my thinking can ever find out what is correct, what is accurate, or is it nothing to do with thought? You follow all this? Perhaps you're not interested in all this. So you see how very complex the question is. What?
What am I going to look with if I'm not looking with my thoughts?
What am I looking if I'm not looking with my thought?
What am I going to look with if I don't look with my thoughts?
Yeah, that's the question.
What am I going to look with if I don't use my thought? We've been through this.
Another way to put it might be, who is going to act? I mean,
I'm going to show you in a minute who is going to act.
Every cell in your body acts.
Huh?
Every cell in your body acts.
All right.
Everything acts.
Yes, we didn't deny that.
Energy acts.
Are you really interested in this? I'm not sure.
Haven't we already done something by the time our thoughts know it?
I don't know, madam. Personally, I've always been interested to find out what is correct action. Because if there is no correct action, there is unhappiness. There is regret. There is kind of saying, I wish I hadn't done that, I wish I had done that. And so on. There's constant battle going on if I don't act truly, correctly, accurately. I have to find out. Now, how do I find out? Because it's very clear that thought is limited. Thought cannot possibly find out what is correct action. Because whatever it does is very limited, it's broken up, therefore it never can be correct. Right? This is fairly obvious because you can look at it with reason, with logic, you can see it. So, action born of thought can never be correct. You know, that's a tremendous thing to discover. Not be told, not be said, you've said that, please explain it. I'll explain it. But for each one of us to discover it, that thought, because it is limited because it's based on memory, and memory can never be complete. You may gather more and more and more information, more and more fact, but it's still limited. The word more is relative. Therefore, thought is relative. Therefore, incomplete, is broken up, is a fragment of something which is based on memory. Right? So thought cannot answer this question. Then what will? You understand? If thought cannot possibly answer this enormous complex question of correct action, correct, what do we mean by correct, what do we mean by accurate, true, and what is action? We are using logic, not some vague ideas about it. Action can only be when there is only the acting, not I have acted or will act. I wonder if you see all this. There is only acting. If that acting is based on some past memories, conclusions, hurts, fears, then it is colored by the past. Therefore, that action undergoes various types of modification. Therefore, it's not accurate action. You get what? Therefore, I say to myself, is it possible to be free of the past and act? Which sounds most extraordinary, it's idiotic, unreasonable. So I say, wait, let's find out if it is unreasonable. That is, I want to find out any action born out of some memory, that action must be incomplete. Right? So, then what is action which is totally complete? You understand? I wonder if you're following all this. So what is total action? Now, total I mean by that word whole. Whole implies healthy, physical health. That word implies sanity. Because otherwise, if the mind is insane, as most people's minds are, neurotic and confused, then there is no, we can't find out. So I say to myself, is my mind sane? Can it think objectively? Not personally, not according to my pleasure. Can it think clearly? So, whole means having a healthy body and also having a sane, clear, healthy mind, not drugged mind, mind that has been ruined by drugs, by drink, alcohol, and all the rest of it. Then, whole means also holy, H-O-L-Y. So I don't know what holy is yet, but I'm inquiring. So is it possible to perceive action as a whole? You understand? Whole being healthy, sane, and holy. Is there such action which is never contradictory? From the age of 20 till you die, that there is an action that's complete all the time. I'm talking to myself. Or you're following all this, I hope. It's not following, don't follow me, but observe it in yourself. So, one has discovered for oneself that thought, acting, can never be whole. Therefore, thought, whatever it acts upon or does, will be incomplete, incorrect, limited. Then the problem is there an ending to thought? And if there is an ending, what is action then? One has only known action according to some principle, some idea, some conclusion, some remembrance, hurt, and so on. According to that one acts. But if all that doesn't exist, then what is action? You're following on. Then action may have a totally different meaning. Not I acting. So I cannot find out action which will have a totally different significance. If I am confused, if you follow all that's going on in my mind. So how is the mind to be free from its occupations? You understand?
How is the mind to set its house in order, so to speak?
What?
How is the mind to set itself in order? Would that be a question?
How is the mind to set itself in order?
How is the mind to set itself in order? Now, is that a right question or a wrong question? Just listen. She asked a question. She says, how is the mind to set itself in order? Is that a right question or a question that will lead to some wrong conclusion?
It's can the mind set itself in order?
Did you say that?
No, I'm asking another question.
That's a different question altogether.
Can the mind which is disordered...
Can the mind set itself in order? That's a totally different question. Now, who is to set it in order? Some external agency? Environment? The politicians? The priests? The society? The culture? You understand? All that, which is your own thinking. So, can the mind, you see, I'm only asking what is correct action, not what is order yet. Because if there is when there is correct action, the mind is totally in order. So, without order, there is no correct action, right? So, what is order? The politicians will say that is order. The dictators will say this is order. And the priests and everybody says different things about order. So what is order? Is order according to a blueprint? According to the Bible? According to some figure in the Bible? Is it laid down by some religious fanatics? Is it a conclusion of some scientists? So how are we going to find out what is order? You can only find out what is order if you understand what is disorder. Right? So don't you live in disorder? Now, what is disorder to you? See, we are going away from this thing.
If fear and conflict are given continuity, if they're fear and conflict, I guess, they are disorder.
What is that, sir?
I think that well, if there's a whole, that means it should be free of conflict. Or else there's a
So how can a mind that is so confused, so disorderly, saying one thing, doing another, thinking about something, and doing quite the opposite what he is thinking. How can such a mind find out what is order? All that it can do is say, why is my mind so terribly disorderly?
What I have been hearing you saying is we cannot use thought if we want order.
Huh?
We cannot use thought if we want to arrive at the place where we can see order. This is what I hear you say. Is that correct?
And sure, Madam, this is not what the speaker is saying. Please, these are facts put before you.
Yes, I see that as a fact. I wanted to know if you were hearing me. Now, in order for thought to cease, what do? We first of all have to watch our process of thinking. And in watching that process, we do not judge, we do not compare, we listen completely with attention. And then we have that silence, and we do, if in the process of not judging and not comparing and not allowing that thought to be fed, something happens that provides correct action or right action.
Look here, Madam, you said several things which point to some other direction, which is, you say when there is complete attention. When you say when there is complete attention, there is no attention. Right? When I say when I am attentive, this will happen, which means I am not attentive now. No?
That requires to see. We are always interfering our thought.
I said that. Now, what is the speaker to do? Right? You're all here and you all have expressed. What is the speaker to do? He wants to tell you something, which is there is an action which is totally, absolutely correct right through life. And for that you have to listen to it, find out for yourself. Which means find out what is action. Is your action based on the past? Right? On some memory? Or is your action based on some utopian ideal? If it is based on some utopian ideal, you are not. It is such a monstrous thing to live in the future. Or it is a monstrous thing to live in the past. Are you? If you are, then you will never find out what is correct action. It's as simple as that. So how will you live? How will you find out whether you are living the past? To be aware that you are doing it. Or if you have ideals, marvelous, super ideals, perfect utopia, you are somewhere far away.
Will this correct action, will it be different for different people?
No. Correct action is correct action, whether it's yours, mine, or his.
Because one of the things I do in my mind, I imagine there are other people who do, is I look at you and I say, well, you're acting correctly. Now I'm going to try to follow the way you act.
And then you're merely a follower, therefore a destroyer. I wonder if you have understood that. If you follow somebody, you are destroying that person and yourself.
What is it that perceives correct action?
What is correct action, sir?
What perceives the correct action?
What?
What perceives it? What perceives correct action?
Comes before.
What perceives correct action?
What perceives correct action? It's a good question if you will go into it. Who will see what is correct action? Now, we see from the past, don't we? No? And that is the me, right? I say, I observe correct action, right? The me is the essence of the past. No? My memories, my pleasures, my mistakes, my regrets, my anxieties, my hopes, despairs, attachments, all that is the me, right? All that is based on something that has happened. Or the me is what I shall be, what I must be, what I am going to be. So the me is either in the past or in the future. The me never exists now. I wonder if you see that. See, that's a tremendous discovery, not just words. Is there a me that is neither the past nor the future? Is the me the result of time? Right? It is the result of time. Time is a movement from here to there, both physically as well as psychologically. So it is of time. Time is the movement also of thought. So thought has put together the me. And the me is thought. These are all logic, reason. And we object to reason, apparently. You'll call them eggheads or something or other.
Sir, isn't that all speaking based on the past and therefore incorrect action?
What?
All speaking, when we speak, that is based on our memory. And therefore, isn't that incorrect?
Quite right, sir. Quite right. But what you said is correct, but find out, sir.
I'm constructing the me in the present. My present, I am constructing the me. That's what I'm doing. Because what I am now is becoming my memory. So that's where I am.
That gentleman asked a question, sir. Didn't you?
Yes.
What was the question, sir?
The question was, when we are speaking, we are using memory. Does
That's
that mean
right.
all speaking
That's
is
right.
incorrect?
That's right, sir. When we use language, when there is the usage of language, the language is recorded, memorized, and the word express that memory, right? And all the rest of it. So, language drives us. We went into that the other day, if you were there. And we never use language. There is a difference. The instrument uses us, but we never use the instrument. It may be that we are the instrument. There is not, we use the instrument. You haven't, so this is quite important. Is there, I want to tell you something. So I use language. I know language is memory, cultivated, carefully learned, and stored up, word by word, syntax, adjectives, adverbs, and all the rest of it, verbs and so on. It's all through constant repetition of words has been stored up. Right. But also, the world is never the thing, right? The word tree is not the actual tree, right? So, if you and I understand that the world is not the thing, right? That the description, I might describe the mountain, but the mountain is different from the description. If you and I understand that very clearly, then we are not slave to words. I wonder if I'm making myself, right? We are not slave to words. Therefore, is there, this is too complex, I'll go with it. Is there a talking, an expression, a saying, using the language, but without the emotional other reactions entering into the world? I wonder if I'm making myself clear. No, this is, please, this is extraordinarily difficult. Don't. Huh? So he asked a question, which was, aren't you speaking when you use these words from memory?
If we do, sir, it's because we're not awake. You know, we don't know, we are not going beyond our conscious thinking. If we are awake, we have the deep awareness enough. You know, in itself, it goes beyond the word. So that the message is there, the reality is there.
I haven't understood, sir.
What I'm saying, I can see the truth of your words, but not exactly of your words, of the message of your words. That is a perception, it's not my thinking out there.
He said, when I go beyond the word, I understand the message.
No, there is no message.
Right, there is no message. The feeling, the perception is there without the thinking. The problem is that we think, and we stop perception. We stop, we stop any awareness, any deep awareness that may give us the perception.
I'm sorry, sir. Forgive me, but I can't get your meaning.
But I'm not simple. I'm trying to express this. I'm sorry.
I'd rather listen to you.
Huh?
I would rather listen to you.
I would rather listen to the birds. But you're not meeting me at all, sir. Look, sir, we have asked a most tremendously complex question. What is correct action? You have never finished it. You won't let the speaker or yourself find out. You always projecting. You never find out. Now when we leave, you won't know what's correct action. Right? As we have so far discussed, you won't realize or see what is correct action for yourself. Because you're constantly interrupting yourself.
And what caused that interruption, sir? That's what I'm getting. What is causing the interruption of seeing? Thinking. If we don't think, I'm awakened intensely, we don't think, the thinking is not interfering.
Sir, may I ask, if I may, have you found out for yourself what is correct action at the end of an hour and a half? No, sir, please quiet. Listen, sir, I beg of you. Have you found out for yourself, all of us, what is correct action? Have you? No. No, good. Why? You have spent nearly an hour and a half talking about this. Why haven't you found out?
Because everyone is so full of their own questions that they are not paying attention to the question at hand.
That's right. So all this indicates, if I may most respectfully point out, that you're not interested in the question at all.
Sir?
Just, if you are really interested, vitally, you would have shed blood into it. Tears, find out. I'm afraid we are used to we want to lead a soft, comfortable life. Yes, sir.
I would say perhaps a correct action is an action in which we do not impose our will on life, on things.
Sir, that's a definition. I'm not interested in definition. I want to find out for myself a way of living which will not be contradictory, which will have no regrets, which will have not under pressure of fear, of hope, of despair, nothing. I want to find out what is correct action throughout my life.
We see there is no answer, there is no question.
So please, for God, at the end of it I'm asking you, it's an hour and a half nearly, have you found out? No. Why? Are you interested in it? I'm not sure. Interested so that it's your life you're giving.
So when we're talking about language,
I am not.
we were talking about language.
Because he raised that question.
Yes. May we get back to it?
Huh?
May we get back to it?
We can do it, sir, but have you found out at the end of it what's correct action? That's what we started out with. Language is we can talk learn a great deal about language, the usage of words, how the words are formed, what is the root of words, and so on, go into it. But does that solve the problem which we raised at the beginning, which is what is correct action throughout life? The speaker has given his life to it, find out. He doesn't want to live in contradiction. It's no meaning. Or on some memory or which have awakened some regrets, hurts. All that is absurd when you want to find out what is correct action. You watch it, you observe it, you go into it with all your vitality, energy, intensity to find out. So I'm afraid you haven't found it. Until you find it, one lives a miserable, confused, contradictory life. And if you're satisfied with that, that's perfectly all right. I'm not telling you what is correct action. If I were to tell you what's the correct action, it would be a blueprint. Then it would be totally incorrect action. Then it would be based on authority. Or, well, he says that's correct action. I think it is not correct action, so back again. So unless you are very, very, very serious about this, one leads a rather shadow, empty life. If that is what you think is the way to live, live it. May I finish now?
Mr. Krishnamurti, might we please speak about this on the weekend?
Yes, we'll do it in a different way the weekend.